Welcome to the greatest radio show to ever grace the internet. It's KDOG Radio. Well, howdy, folks. Back for another KDOG Radio. This is also kind of wrapping up my vacation time, actually. Of course, I've been on vacation for the past 2 weeks. This is the Friday before I have to go back to work Monday. So, unfortunately, that is the sad case. And I did spend some time trying to look at other jobs, but that would be more satisfying to me. But unfortunately, what's kind of going on right now is everybody's kind of looking for seasonal help, and that way they don't have to pay any benefits. And plus, maybe the best ticket just to stick with what I've got till maybe about spring and then start looking again. But who knows? Who knows what life has in store? There's some crazy things going on in our world today, and just, oh boy. All you have to do is just kind of look around, and some of the people like today, I seen something today that it just proved a point to me that technology and people don't always mix. That's a key thing where that the technology and people don't mix. And there's a lot of big debate on the whole thing about the self-checkout counters and the self-checkout kiosks and people and and jobs and whatnot. But this is a case where 9 times out of 10, a lot of problems that happen with technology is operator error. Okay. And this is a case where it was the person operating the kiosk was making errors and causing some issues for fellow patrons. I went to a store today. I'm not going to mention the name of the store for obvious reasons, but about everybody and their dog now has self checkout. Even stinking Dollar General has self checkout. But anyhow, I went to this store and for some reason they only had 3 kiosks open and working. And there was an elderly gentleman. I'm going to say this gentleman was at least, I'm going to say probably in his 80s, a little bit elderly. And he had a container of the store brand version of Metamucil in his hand. And he goes up to the self checkout and he scans it so it registers. But, being an elderly gentleman, he was so slow with his movement that the thing almost timed out on him. And so he picks the item up instead of putting it in the bagging area, which you are supposed to do as soon as you scan it in. You are to lift it and put it in the bagging area. Well, he let the item sit on top of the scanner also. And so the system is going, hey, you're doing something wrong. He just stares at the screen like, and then there's a caution thing that came up, for the person to come around and fix it. So what does this man do? He just kind of looks around, goes to the next kiosk, does the same thing, and still the same message came up, and he's trying to put cash in the cash dispenser and it's not taking it. And he just looks around and leaves, goes to a person to check him out. And the lady that comes by is like, why are there two kiosks locked away? And they said, we just pointed to, there's an older man. He goes, did he do both of these? And we're like, yeah, he did. He locked them up. So this is just a case where, again, technology and computers, it's 9 times out of 10, it's operator error. And then 2, it's it's older people and technology not really mixing. You know, eventually I'm going to get there too. And the guy that was ahead of me, he had his kids. You know, we're all going to get like that, you know, where the technology advances and we are kind of stuck in what we know, how things work. And you know, this world is saying either you adapt or get thrown out. But no, it's it's messed up, you know, and it's messed up. And technology technology is constantly moving forward. People don't. And what's right, what's wrong with technology is, not I've always said this, not everything needs to be put on computer automation, but that's the way that they're doing it. And unfortunately, now we have to worry about this AI thing going on, which basically takes our image and our voices and whatnot. I understand I'm very much a part of it. Someone else could be taking my voice right now and saying that I'm doing something totally against my beliefs and ludicrous and just crazy. And while we're on that topic of technology and ranting and raving, uh, of course, it's been announced that some stores will no longer carry physical media for movies and TV shows. And of course, it's been that way for a while with music. So if you're like me, I have a massive, and I mean massive, Blu-ray and DVD collection. Why? Because I enjoy movies. I could basically fund a TV network where I show nothing but movies. I could, that's why I think, to me, channels like HBO and Cinemax and all these streaming services are fine because you do get a little bit of exclusive content. But like, I'm gonna say like something like HBO or an AMC is. I'm glad I have AMC, but I'm kind of I could I could, if AMC had a bad copy of a movie, I could basically give them a copy of this movie that they could show. I have that much of an extensive DVD and Blu-ray collection. I, of course, have accounts with Vudu, the Movies Anywhere, Amazon Prime. And the thing is, if you have Vudu, you can link up the accounts together, so whatever you purchase on one can turn up on the other. Well, the downside is I've been looking towards the future, and if the big box stores are no longer going to be carrying physical media, eventually I'm going to want to purchase movies and watch them, regardless if they are on a disc-based media. They may still do it by Amazon. You can order a title through Amazon, or an online mail, and or something like that. But Vudu has what's called the disc to digital. But there are several problems with this, because one, you're only allowed to convert up to 100 discs, both DVD and Blu-ray, per year. Whether that is calendar year or year that you start collecting, I have no idea. It is 100 discs per year. The rest of them, you have to pay the full price. 2, only certain studios are agreeing to disc to digital. And it's usually the titles by Paramount, Warner Brothers, Universal, and I think Lionsgate. I'm not quite sure, but there are a couple who do not, particularly Disney and MGM, as far as I know, that do not allow their titles to be disc to digital. And there's some others, like some of the more independent titles that don't allow disc to digital. So for those, they may be available on the streaming service, but however, you can only, but you'll have to pay the full price for them. They want you to buy the title again. Well, the best thing to do is right now is to buy the disc copy and then use the little, well, here's one I have. This is of Lightyear. Is use the code. So it's safe to put this code up here because it's already been redeemed. So if you try to use it, it will not work. So, and it has, the eligible places where you can redeem the code. So, and if you read on the small print here, it has a expiration date. So, yeah, they usually come with an expiration date. Well, as I started to do it, and I only got 5 titles, I think. Yeah, about 5 titles converted from DVD that were eligible. And Sony allows the disc to digital. I should clarify that. Sony does. But I managed to get about 10 titles converted, and they were DVD titles, but Disney and MGM are not eligible. Only 100 discs per year that are eligible through the disc to digital conversion. And I thought, there's got to be another way to do this. And I'm just finding wherever I go, there's going to be a limitation. And the reason why I'm thinking about in the future is because, I have this massive collection, but you know what also is going to stop? Not only are the stores going to stop selling the discs, but also the electronics manufacturers are going to stop manufacturing the players. So you hear all the time, say, save your discs, because also the studios are going in and tampering and taking out politically incorrect things. But here's the problem. It's that plus the manufacturers, plus the retailers putting massive restrictions on us, the consumer. And of course, the players are going to give out eventually. They're going to stop working, and they're going to stop manufacturing the players like brand new ones. Yeah, so we're kind of stuck in a pickle here. Now, there is some software you can rip your DVDs to a digital file and save it on your computer, but most of it is DVD only. And again, you have Disney putting restrictions onto the software manufacturers and say, oh, you can't convert. So unless you buy a license from, these companies that And of course, it's only DVD, not Blu-ray, or you got to buy a different drive. And so right now, I am I'm kind of at a pickle and at a standstill with my movie collection. Not only that, as I was going through, I decided I was going to put a little sticker tab on the DVDs I have converted to digital. Um, yeah, here's an example. Here's what I've done: just take a little sticker and say, "Hey, this one is in your digital collection." Okay, but they've that title is in my digital collection. But then again, they're wanting you to spend money into the system, and also some of them that I know that I have redeemed by the digital code, or I have redeemed by disc to digital, have just up and disappeared. That, I mean, just gone from my collection, and they're still available on the streaming service. Like they just up and disappeared. Like, I know I had all of the Planet of the Apes movies redeemed in some form of fashion. The classic movies and the modernized movies. And all of a sudden, the last one, War for the Planet of the Apes, I know there's a new one coming out, but War for the Planet of the Apes is gone. It's vanished from my collection. Now, where it has gone, I have no idea. And of course, I threw the codes away because I didn't think I would have this problem. And there were several, like, there was even two James Bond movies. I know that I had two of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. I know I had in my collection. The most recent one, No Time to Die, it's gone, and I know I redeemed it. So I don't know. It's crazy, and maybe I don't know. It's because I have a limited number of space that you only have. That's another thing. I mean, the cloud storage only, some of these retailers they only say you only have 100 gigabytes of storage, or you can only store like so many titles. So what about me that has thousands of discs that are just kind of, that I have yet to convert? Some of them are not, and this is another thing I'm getting into. Some of the titles are not even available for the streaming service at all. Example, give you a prime example. And this one was kind of in the like Google search news, like not all your movies your movies are available in the digital cloud service like Vudu or Movies Anywhere or Amazon Prime. Well, here's an example. Cocoon from 1985, I think. 1985. Ron Howard's Cocoon. It's a great sci-fi fantasy movie, kind of in the same vein as E.T. Has an all-star cast of Don Amici, Wilford Brimley, Hume Cronin, Brian Dennehy, Steve Guttenberg, Maureen Stapleton, Jessica Tandy, Gwen Verdon, and Tawny Welsh, Raquel Welch's daughter. Anyhow, great movie from 1985. I've had this disc since I was in college, okay? And I don't know how many times I've watched it. And as far as I know, there's no Blu-ray version of this. If there is, it's just a bare bones Blu-ray. Even this one's not that bad, actually. It has a commentary with Ron Howard on it. and just trailers and TV spot. There's some there's like 1980s behind the scenes footage. But yeah, it's a great movie. But anyhow, back to the topic at hand. This movie is nowhere to be found on any streaming service. However, you can find the sequel, Cocoon the Return. That was an inferior sequel, actually, um, with the pretty much the same cast returning, but it's a inferior movie. It's not as good, and but you can find this one, no doubt. But you cannot find the good one. Cocoon. Sorry, slap the mic. But you cannot find the good one. And this is one of those this is one of those movies where the studio you cannot redeem, because guess who owns 20th Century Fox's titles? You guessed it, the Walt Disney Company, and they are not doing any disc to digital. And as far as I know, they have no intentions of re-releasing Cocoon whatsoever. And I think they ought to, but and what I've been doing kind of as testing ground, I've been testing, see what I can really want to keep doing it as of right now, because I've also been collecting the Hallmark Channel Christmas movies that they put out onto not Blu-ray, but DVD, is copying those and putting those into a digital file, saving them onto a hard drive, external hard drive. Now, of course, I've got the free version, so it's good but not great. So I'm kind of testing the grounds right now with the DVD quality. Eventually, I want to find a Blu-ray drive and rip my Blu-rays and Ultra 4Ks into a digital format and save them that way as well. But of course, just a little bitty 4 terabyte external hard drive is not going to hold all that. So you have to look into like maybe the 8 terabyte or the 12 terabyte systems, and those are running $2,500, and plus it's going to take some money, and it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some money. Now, moving along, there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about, especially while I've been on vacation. This one, I brought this one out because this DVD, because this is one I just happened to catch on. I didn't actually watch my DVD copy. I actually watched AMC. And of course, it was late at night. I was just going to turn on the TV, so what I could find. And so I turned on AMC, and they had a movie on which was pretty significant about vacationing, and it's the 1988 John Hughes comedy, The Great Outdoors, with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. Of course, this is a hilarious movie. Doesn't really hold up all that well as amongst as some of the other John Hughes comedies, but this has some pretty memorable stuff in it as well. It has John Candy. He eats this huge, gigantic steak, and there's this giant bear that comes, and they fight it off by a shotgun, and all it does is blow its skin apart, and all you hear is it's still a hilarious movie. And of course, it's about John Candy is taking his family into this to this lakeside resort, and he's immediately invaded by Dan Aykroyd and his family. You come to find out later that they're in financial problems, and he pretended to be this big shot Wall Street broker, and but you find out that later on he's nothing but a facade, and he's been lying about it the entire time, and so he's actually broke. And And so they decided to vacation with John Candy's family. And of course, the whole entire time before you find out that he's broke, is that he's driving Dan Aykroyd is driving John Candy completely bonkers, and kind of turning his family against him in a way, but they kind of see through it and go, wait a minute, this makes no sense. And then kind of spills the beans. But yeah, it's a funny movie. It's definitely a movie of the time. Doesn't hold up as well as what you would think that some of the other John Hughes movies do. Um, John Hughes is one of those guys that you either really liked his movies or you didn't like them. Like, um, movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and the Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink. A lot of those teen comedies that were coming out and of the 80s. But The Great Outdoors wasn't kind of didn't fall into that. It just fall into the general PG comedy of driving your family crazy. And then the following year, John Hughes and John Candy would make Uncle Buck. It's kind of in the same vein, and that also led into Home Alone and various other comedies. So we got about 4 minutes here, and I've got another thing here I want to show. This is a book. I haven't had a chance to sit down and read it because you hear all this talk about Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, even Kevin Feige, and all those three people who are head of Disney's production teams and whatnot. Well, this is a book I found on Amazon, and I heard a little bit about it on Audible, which is Amazon's audiobook group. Of course, I'm going to get the audiobook version to help read this. This is by James B. Stewart. It's called Disney War. He goes, once upon a time, one man ruled America's greatest entertainment company. This is the untold story. And basically, how we hear about all this anti Bob Iger, anti Kathleen Kennedy, and anti Kevin Feige, and all this stuff that's going on. Well, this is kind of the dirty tell-all book about Michael Eisner and kind of what happened there, and the friction between him and Roy E. Disney. And you kind of hear that same thing going on right now with the inheritance of the Disney family talking to the shareholders and pressuring, fire Kathleen Kennedy, fire Bob Iger, and, get all these people out of there. So you're kind of hearing that now, but this is nothing really new. It happened during the Eisner days. Matter of fact, the first thing that this book publishes is who the cast members were from the initial when Walt Disney started, and it has the dates they were born and the dates that they passed away, who worked underneath them, and then from Eisner, Frank Wells, Michael Ovitz, Robert Iger, who we're talking about today, because Bob Iger came from ABC when Disney bought ABC from Capital Cities. And so, and we got to remember that Eisner picked Bob Iger to succeed him in taking over. Just the same as Bob Eisner, or not Bob Eisner, Bob Iger chose Bob Chapek to take over when he left. And you see how quickly that lasted. And now kind of the things are going, what goes around comes around. So, yeah, it's a mess right now. And I only have a few more seconds left, according to the timer here. But yeah, Disney War. I'm looking forward to reading it because, I lived when Disney was Disney. I was a part of the whole. When I was growing up, the whole Eisner era was pretty much throughout my lifetime, but there was definitely some friction there. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So from me to you, see you later.